confidence is continuing to increase that a powerful storm system will develop off the Carolina coastline late Friday night into Saturday. This system is expected to strengthen rapidly and then track north and northeast toward Atlantic Canada. And right now, one area stands out very clearly as the highest risk zone: Nova Scotia. Special weather statements are already in effect for mainland Nova Scotia as well as Cape Breton, and it is very likely that these alerts will expand in the coming days to include southern New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and eventually Newfoundland as the storm evolves. This is not just a simple snowstorm. This is shaping up to be a high-impact winter system. It's a wind event, it's a snow event, and in some areas, it could reach blizzard-like conditions. Forecast guidance is showing the potential for wind gusts exceeding 90 km per hour in exposed and coastal locations. When you combine winds like that with falling snow, visibility can drop rapidly, leading to dangerous travel conditions. Timing is also important here. Conditions are expected to begin deteriorating late Sunday across the Maritimes, with the worst impacts likely Sunday night into Monday. Nova Scotia and Cape Breton would be the first to feel the full force of the storm, followed by Newfoundland as the system continues to move northeast. Now, you may be wondering why confidence is so high for Nova Scotia, but still a bit lower for surrounding regions. The answer comes down to storm track. There are a few different scenarios still on the table. In the first scenario, the more aggressive or worst-case track, the storm moves closer to the coast. That would bring heavy snowfall, very strong winds, and potentially blizzard conditions across much of Nova Scotia, with heavier snow also reaching southern New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island. In the second scenario, the storm tracks a bit farther south and east. In that case, snowfall totals would be lower for New Brunswick and PEI, but Nova Scotia would still see significant impacts, and Newfoundland would still be affected by strong winds and snow. The third scenario falls somewhere in between those two, and interestingly, still delivers substantial snowfall and wind to Nova Scotia. That's why confidence remains very high that Nova Scotia, including Cape Breton, will be impacted no matter which exact track the storm takes. So the key takeaway right now is this: while details will continue to change, there is strong confidence that Nova Scotia will experience a significant winter storm with both heavy snow and strong winds. Other parts of Atlantic Canada are still very much in play, but their impacts depend on how close the storm tracks to the region. It's hard to believe, but we've reached the final Friday of January, and the temperature story across Canada is sharply divided. On one side, eastern Canada remains locked in cold Arctic air. It's not as extreme as earlier this winter, but it's still enough to make it a bitterly cold day from the Great Lakes right through Atlantic Canada. Wind chills continue to be the big issue, making it feel significantly colder than the actual air temperature. Out west, however, it's a completely different picture. Alberta is enjoying a noticeable break from typical late January conditions. Many areas are seeing daytime highs in the high single digits and even low double digits, a rare and welcome change for this time of year. That colder air over the lower Great Lakes is slowly retreating eastward, modifying as it goes, and over the next couple of days and into the weekend, Alberta continues to look relatively mild compared to the rest of the country. As we look at Friday afternoon conditions, British Columbia remains under the influence of warmer Pacific air. Along the coast, that means mild temperatures paired with wet weather. Alberta stays on the warm side, while the eastern prairies, the Great Lakes region, and Atlantic Canada remain firmly in the cold. Gusty winds will make it feel especially harsh across Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, and Atlantic Canada through the afternoon. In Atlantic Canada, Sea effect snow continues, particularly impacting western Newfoundland and parts of Cape Breton. Meanwhile, lake effect snow off Georgian Bay and Lake Huron is beginning to wind down as winds shift and weaken. An Alberta clipper system is pushing into western Canada, moving through Alberta and then diving southeast as we head into Saturday. Starting on the west coast, temperatures are relatively comfortable for late January. Victoria is sitting near 11 degrees, but rain is building in. Snow levels are hovering around 1,600 meters, which means higher elevations like Whistler will see snow while lower elevations deal with steady rainfall. The heaviest rain is expected through the morning and afternoon before tapering off later in the evening. Rainfall warnings are in effect, so expect a wet day and keep those umbrellas close. Above 1,600 meters, accumulating snow continues across the North Shore Mountains. Across northern Canada, temperatures remain cold but manageable for this time of year. Inuvik is near -19, while Whitehorse sits closer to -5 with occasional flurries. The main weather feature here is a fast-moving system racing east toward James Bay later Friday, followed by high pressure settling in behind it. The prairies tell another split story. Alberta continues to hold onto milder air, but places like Grande Prairie could see a mix of freezing rain and rain later in the afternoon and evening. As this system pushes east into Saskatchewan and Manitoba, there's a risk of freezing rain during the transition, though snowfall amounts remain relatively light. Most areas outside Alberta will only see a couple of centimeters, as temperatures are simply too warm for anything more significant. Southern Ontario stays cold, with Toronto reaching only about -12 despite mostly sunny skies. Lake effect snow continues to fade, especially as winds turn more northeasterly. Southern Quebec remains generally quiet but cold, and once again, lake effect snow near Georgian Bay and Lake Huron shuts down later in the day. Looking ahead to Saturday night, skies clear in many areas, making for excellent stargazing conditions if clouds cooperate. Any remaining lake effect snowfall ends completely by late evening. In Atlantic Canada, sea effect snow lingers off the Atlantic, affecting western Newfoundland and parts of Cape Breton with mostly light accumulations. Snowfall remains minimal for now, but attention quickly turns to the next system, with a higher impact storm possible Sunday into Monday that could bring much more significant snow and wind to the region. That's the overall picture as we close out the work week and head into the final weekend of January, a country split between cold and mild, calm and active, with bigger changes already lining up just ahead.